Hello and welcome back to my channel. So first of all, I wanted to apologise for being away so long. I had COVID and I really wasn't up to recording videos. So, what inspired me today is a Japanese proverb that goes like this: fall 7 times, stand up 8. And it made me want to talk about failure. So, what's behind it, and how can we turn it into success? I don't really like the word failure because it's way too negative, and I like to see it as a step, because that's what it is. Okay, it's something we can learn from, and it leaves room for improvement, and it's always an experience. Okay, and of course, this isn't going, I won't be addressing, cases where you tell yourself, okay, my whole life is a failure. Regarding that, I'm creating a program that will be available soon, and there's a free webinar on Zoom coming up, and you can join. There's a link in the description box below. I'm going to be looking at failure from 3 different angles. Limiting beliefs, fears and blocks, that will be one approach. Then I'll be looking into the way we handle our goals and what we want to achieve. And finally, it's going to be around what's behind it, what's behind the goal. Is there something more to failure than what meets the eye? So the first question I'm going to ask you is, are you programmed for failure? Now, when I say that, I don't mean, that it's a chronic condition that you will never get rid of. What I mean is that, we are very often, well, always actually, we are conditioned by our environment as children and when we grow up. And sometimes we've heard things, or there have been consequences to not doing the right thing, or sometimes, there are even beliefs that run in the family and that we take for granted. For instance, some people think that, they are genetically doomed to fail at maths. I've seen people like that, and that is just a false belief, of course. Or if, as a child, if you tended to be, forgetful, maybe your parents said, "Oh, you're stupid, you forgot that again," without meaning, without meaning to harm you. However, it does, all these things, they wire your brain, and it can come from, the family, school, and any other environment you're in. I'm going to ask you to dig a little into that and try to list all these things that have programmed your brain and that turn up now and again with a sneaky little voice telling you, oh, you can't do this, you're not good enough, all these things. Or, that sometimes downright paralyze you and block you and stop you from even taking action. The second question is going to be, how did I handle my goal? Did I have a clear roadmap? And this is very important because very often, we decide to do something, but without any clarity, without really knowing where we're going. So we just step on the road, and take it as it comes. Unfortunately, we might take a few wrong turns. So it's very important to, when you set a goal, to make sure it's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Now, there's more to it than that. I'm going to ask you to look back into where you failed and see if, make sure that everything was wrapped up and that you knew exactly where you were going and how you were going to do it. And perhaps now you can look at it from a different perspective, make additions, and have a nice, clear roadmap. But that leads me to the third question, because sometimes there's something behind it, behind all that. And it has to do with motivation and who you are and what you really want. So the question you're going to ask yourself now is, why do I want that? Is it aligned with who I am? Is it aligned with my core values? Is it really something for me and something that I want deep down? Or is it something that I was made to do or that I thought I should do, but that's not for me? And in that case, if you failed, it's a blessing, it's a gift. And it prevents something much worse from happening. Let's say when, in 10 years' time, all of a sudden you realize that you weren't going where you wanted to go. And then you're going to tell yourself, well, my life is a whole failure. So look at that and take the time to assess what you really want. And the last thing I'm going to ask you to do, which is another assessment, I'm going to ask you to make a positive assessment of the experience. Because there's always so much that we can gain from a failed attempt, okay? There are lessons to learn, improvements to be made, things we learn about ourselves, but also all the additions it brought to your life. For example, you decided to take one route and you met some great people who became lifelong friends. You can't see that as failure. So list all those, all the good things that you gained from the experience. And something I wanted to add is that in some cultures, failure is regarded as something extremely positive because it adds value. It adds value to who you are. And in those cultures, if you haven't been through some trials and tribulations, you might not be considered for a work position, because failure means leads to resilience, and it leads to change, it leads to starting anew, it leads to a whole new level of experience. So keep that in mind. And I will see you soon. Goodbye.